welcome everyone to Buying Local. I'm your host, Mike Nelson from Five Towers Media. Today we're talking with a couple of guys. One of them we've had on the show before, Chris, and just because I am terrible with pronouncing people's last names, and your last name has a spelling to it that would be easy for me to mess up. So, Chris, if you don't mind, just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Fair enough. So I am Chris Mastantuono, and this is Ron Monaco. I own the car shops in Queensbury and Malta, and we have been a pre-owned car dealer in the capital region for 12 years going on. And like you said, we were on your show before, and we're coming out with a new venture, and Ron's going to be spearheading it for me. And so I want to introduce you to Ron, and he'll tell you a little bit about his past and kind of how we're gonna make this new thing help our communities, we think.
So that's a great segue into Ron and talking about Requalify 360. And we'll kind of jump back and forth, I think, between Car Shop and Requalify and kind of the connection and how they relate to each other. Ron, give us the broad strokes, man. What is Requalify 360?
So Requalify 360 is a chance to get back to not just credit health, but credibility in your life, your finances, right? Unfortunately, in the times that we live, kind of like Chris had touched base on that, is people don't really know where they stand today, right? Credit seems to be that ugly topic that nobody really wants to bring to the table conversation. But, realistically, in more than just your finances, it's prevalent in your life, even your car insurance quotes, right? And the prices that you're gauged with in that industry, it comes from your personal profile. And unfortunately, people understand that credit is a deciding factor, but they don't understand the driving force in which these bureaus are labeling you, right? So getting people the knowledge, the education, but also being somebody on their behalf that can kind of fight their battle for them that, quite frankly, most of us just don't have the time for behind the scenes, all the while educating them on how to kind of put the roadmap together and to not just survive this world anymore, but thrive it, but 25% of people, at least for what we see in this area, are below a 600 credit score. And, opportunities fade very quickly, and you give the power essentially to the other side, to the lenders, to these people that are pricing you out based on a profile that you have. Ultimately, we want to see people in our community be able to do better for themselves. Certainly that transcends to more business for us, but it goes a long way when you can educate somebody in how to empower themselves moving forward.
It's also just an affordability question. There's so much conversation about affordability across the spectrum, right? But if you have a 5% interest rate difference on a car loan, let's say, just because that's our specialty, right? I mean, that could be $100 a month difference for the same car.
Yeah.
Right. So people can't afford an extra $100 now a month, everything being good just because of inflation and wages and all that kind of stuff. So we have something we have a skill set that we could share with people that could literally reduce their costs across the spectrum. Right. So car payments could be 100 less, car insurance could be 50 less. I don't really know much about apartment markets, but
Still based off that. The
yeah,
division is still based on that profile.
I'm sure that they're gonna bump the rent if your credit is a 480 as opposed to a 690 or whatever. So we're just trying to do our little part to make a profit. Not gonna lie, right? But also there's a huge need and there's a huge gap for what's going on in the market today, and people just need a little bit of help and a little assistance. So I think a little credit coaching is kind of just what the doctor ordered.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And is that the kind of main component behind what Requalify 360 is credit coaching?
It's exactly that. So it's credit rebuilding and credit coaching. So we'll help you get some stuff that's on your credit bureau. If some of that stuff is erroneous or stale or old, we'll help you dispute it and we'll help you get rid of it. Or even just correct it. If somebody has you down for, an $800 collection and it's supposed to be $300 collection, that makes a big difference. Just that correction, even if it doesn't get eliminated. But there's there's also lots of non-factual information on credit reports. That people will sell debt to these collection agencies that pay pennies on the dollar, and they just put whatever they want out there. There's no like dotting T's and crossing I's. They're just taking a spreadsheet of debt for Fred Flintstone, and it might be Fred Flintstone Jr. You know what I mean? Like, and then there's just not a lot of there's not a lot of success in policing that, just because it's so widespread. And these things could get sold 3 or 4 times. Like, I could sell it to ABC Collection for 12 cents, and then they could give up on it after a year and sell it to XYZ Collection for 6 cents, and then you have 3 of them for the same collection with 3 different numbers on it because they keep accruing interest. And then you have one debt that's showing 3 different times that's 14 years old. And if you don't know how to fight that,
100%.
and you don't even know that it's there, most people don't know. They might have Credit Karma or some free service, but you get what you pay for, right? Credit Karma is not so factual. It's stale, it's old, it's dated.
Yeah.
It kind of just, a lot of people just need help. And there was a time when I had bad credit too, and I needed help in that regard. And I have a lot of friends and family in the same kind of position. So we don't just see it at work, we see it at dinner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because as you guys were talking, I was thinking about, like, I mean, most of us don't actually know what our credit score is until we go to get a loan or something along those lines, and that's when we find out where we are, right? It's kind of like I mean, some of us may know that we have good credit, or some of us may know we have bad credit, but we're kind of going in there fingers crossed, like, what's it going to come back at, right? And when it comes back poor, what do you do? Like, I don't know anything about cleaning up my credit report if I need to, or how to have those conversations. And I've read stuff about it before, about all the different things that you have to do and letters you have to write and communications you have to send. It seems kind of overwhelming for your average person.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Of course. It's, in money is so important, and financial advice is so important. And it's so easy to talk about, you see financial advisors on every corner, especially you drive through Saratoga Springs, right? It's so easy, right? You get all these, but those are for primarily people that have money and have resources, right? Who's giving financial advice to somebody who's living day to day and paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah.
Right. And who needs it more, really?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We
100%.
have an affordability crisis in this country, and it's no different in upstate New York. So, people need help, and they don't have the expertise. And like you said, fingers crossed is a real thing. Like,
Yeah.
it every day in the store, man, fingers crossed. Like, oh, I hope you can get me approved. I hope you can get me approved. And it's like, it's very challenging. It's very challenging.
I'll tell you, I mean, realistically, I buy a car every few years, and every few years I'm like going to and I'm like, I have no idea where my credit score is, but let's hope it's up there so I get a better rate. Like, fingers crossed. Here we go, guys. Like, fill out the app, wait to hear back.
No question. And I was actually talking to a credit union rep yesterday, and he was like, "What are you seeing?" And I'm like, "It's really tough out there." And he's like, "We're seeing it too." So now this is a credit union. This isn't like a subprime lender or anything like that. This is a prime credit unit. He goes, "What we're really seeing is credit score compression, because that's what I was touching on before. Like, if you were a 720 6 months ago, and your credit limit, your utilization just went up by 5% for whatever reason, because you bought a shed at Home Depot and it was $3,000 and it used to be 1,200. All of a sudden your utilization is over 30%. I mean, your credit can go from 720 to 680 in 2 minutes.
Yep.
Right. And if you make the payments on that in 3 months, it'll go back, which is great. But if you need to go get a car inside that 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
you're going from an A tier credit profile to a B tier credit profile. And then your interest rate's going from 7 or 8% to 10 or 11%. And the last car you bought 5 years ago, you bought at 4% because the world was different then.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the car that you bought years back is $200 more a month because A, the price of everything went up 5 grand. And
Mhm.
now your cost to borrow went from 4% to 12%.
Significant.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild idea that, like, even though I'm still paying my bills on time, real in theory, nothing's changed other than I'm a little bit over on that, how much money I have in my credit card versus what the total balance is. I think that's how that works, right?
Correct. That's
Uh,
correct.
you know, like that, just that one little thing can have such a huge impact on your buying power, your interest rate, which again turns back to affordability, which then comes into your cash flow and how much money you have to budget every month, right? Like,
And that's the thing, and we know it. Everybody's day to day. Everybody is week to week. People that make a lot of money can't afford things. So people that don't make a lot of money, they really can't afford things.
it's definitely, I mean, I don't know, anytime I buy anything recently, and I just thought maybe it was because I'm just getting old and I'm becoming one of those crotchety old guys that's like, I remember when things were a nickel, you know, but like,
That's me. I was like, I remember when I used to go to a movie for $7. Now it's
yeah, man.
130 to go for take the family to the movies.
You know, you buy a steak at the grocery store, it's $30 now instead of it being $8 a few years. You know, like, yeah, the affordability is out of control. Like, things are so expensive. Every penny counts.
Correct.
What so what I mean, obviously I know there's a car shop connection, right? So you guys are working with people every day trying to get car loans through. It is, but realistically, what made you say like one day, like we need to do something about this? And then that was the, you know, requalify as the fruit that came from that tree, so to speak.
So we started to dive into some data. Kind of became a little bit of a data nerd, and AI kind of helped that because it makes it really easy to kind of look through stuff. But
Yeah.
we weren't I don't want to say declining because that's not a good word because everybody's theoretically approved. Just the approvals could really be horrific, right?
Mhm.
So we determined that like 72% of our customers were virtually non-approved, right? So the approvals were like so ridiculous that you couldn't even say it with a straight face, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'll approve you at this gargantuan interest rate, but you have to put half down.
Mhm.
After they just told you they are going to have trouble, putting gas in the car to get home. So that's the threshold for an approval is there, but in real life, it's not an approval, right? So we realized that 72% of regular hardworking New Yorkers just can't get a car that they need to get back and forth. And and we have more banks than everybody and we're still struggling, right? And it's like, so what's the alternative? So then they go on the street and they buy a car for $800 or $2,000 or whatever. And how long does it last? The last 2 months, the last 3 months, because it's a $800 car or a $2,000 car.
Yeah.
And then they're right back in the same rut, and then they call us again. And they're like, "How about now? Can you get us approved now?" And it's like, "Sorry, Joe, I still can't get you approved because nothing changed in the last 2 months." Right? So it's like you keep having these hard conversations with good people, um, and you try to figure out a solution for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's got to be a hard conversation to have. I mean, it's got to be an emotional conversation, right? Like, you know, people need a car in today's day and age. The idea that you can get by without a vehicle to get to work and go to the grocery store and do all the things that people need to do on a daily basis, like I had no idea how anyone would do it. So it's got to, you know, you're looking at like, I need to be able to get to work. I need to be able to get to the grocery store and I need a car to do it. And my credit score is the thing that's in between me and being able to do that. That's a pretty wild idea.
Yeah, yeah. And again, like we said originally, most people really don't know.
Yeah.
But and it happens the other way too. Like we'll have people that'll be like, "Oh, I don't know, I have no credit. My credit sucks," and they have good credit. They don't even know it. So
Yeah.
like the ignorance works both ways, right?
Yep.
But literally, people just don't know. They don't have a qualified solution, and they don't really have an answer. And then the other thing is, people are really afraid to ask, right?
Yeah.
People are afraid to ask. People don't like the unknown. They don't like walking in feeling like they're going to be embarrassed, right? Like there's no way it's going to work, or there's no way it's going to happen, or they have to ask mom for help and they're 30 years old, and like this is what affordability crises really do, and I think that we are probably in, at least in my lifetime, I think this is by far the most significant thing we've come across.
Yeah. I mean, I just from my standpoint, I know in my life, it's wild to me how expensive everything is. And I often wonder, like, how do people get by with how
Yeah.
much things are costing right now?
I say it every day, right? With gratitude and with blessings, but at the same time, I say it every day.
Yeah.
How does somebody with a family of four do it? With the
Yeah.
cost of childcare, with the cost of car insurance, um, I literally don't get it.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I guess that's why everybody's working 14 jobs these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so what does the process look for you guys? I assume you're not just working with people that are coming in for cars, but obviously, if someone comes in for a car, you can offer that service. But how do people, like? What does it look through? They come to you, they got credit issues, and they want to fix them.
So they'll ask for help basically, and then I'm gonna let Ron take over here, but it's gonna start with what we would call like a credit audit. And I said I'm gonna pivot to Ron, and I just don't shut up. So I'm gonna pivot to Ron.
Well, that's just it. Unfortunately, that 72%, that we can't get the terms or the offer that would really suit within their budget. The next step is to take a deeper look, and that's where I come in. I can do a full audit on their credit profile, and I'm looking for anything, any kind of discrepancy and inaccuracy. I mean, there's so many. Actually, Consumer Reports recently put out something that 44% of people that recently have actually monitored their own credit found at least one inaccuracy on their report. One inaccuracy, whether it's an outdated balance, wrongful identity, wrongful debt. I mean, it can be damning to your credit profile. So it's amazing at how much I can unearth by just really going through it with a fine-tooth comb. From there, it's about, the process. So explaining to the client, what I can do on their behalf by formulating the right letters, disputing to the bureaus, or even justification of debts to creditors that need to correct information on their behalf. Because at the end of the day, and we talk about this all the time, if people had that knowledge or really the time on their hands, they would have done it already. So, given my financial background, the way that I can kind of read the forest through the trees, so to speak, it's about isolating those, going to bat for the client. But where I like to go just one step ahead is not just combating the inaccuracies of information. It's about really giving them the coaching and education that they need. And let's get you the momentum, but this is how we maintain it. This is how these scores are formulated. These are what these bureaus are looking for, from everything from credit utilization to your age of your accounts to the length, amount of accounts that you have, the amount of inquiries, that you're receiving, which, there's a lot to unravel there. But at the end of the day, it's about really certifying the education to the client. And yes, we can remove the wrongful information. And I'm not just going to tell you about it. I'm going to show you. I'm going to put that audit together. I'm going to put it in front of the client so they can see, not just take my word for it, but then also put together a blueprint of, and now this is how, once we eliminate this starting today, how we can start making credit work for you. This is how you go from a 540 to a 700 in a, whatever spectrum of time, depending on the case by case basis. So realistically, it's really a thorough and educational process. And that's what we want. We want to create credit savants, because at the end of the day, you lose power in every negotiation when you don't understand how this stuff works. So I think, putting that in the holster of the client, giving them, the right uh, education to move forward and understand what they're actually bringing to the table and not conceding that power across the table, it's how we get affordability back in line. It's how, we get success. As a husband and a father myself, the human part of me doesn't know, like Chris touched base on, how a lot of these families are surviving, right?
Mhm.
And that's the difference. And I can't say it enough. I want people to start thriving, and that doesn't start until you have a knowledge of how things work.
Well, now along that vein too, I got to push back on one thing you said, where you said that people could go and do this themselves, but I would push back and say, well, yeah, maybe, but what they'd have to do is they'd have to educate themselves to a level of where you already are, right? So it's like you're like the Sherpa bringing them up Everest, right? Like you've already done it, you already know the route. Like we can make it easier on you.
Yeah.
The credit Sherpas. We're gonna rebrand it here for you.
Let's go.
But it is, I mean, it's wild too, 'cause you talk about the education piece, and like, basic financial literacy is just not something people really are taught anymore. And
No,
so,
but you say anymore, I'll challenge you.
Ever.
When were they ever?
oh,
Because
that's true. I mean,
I was never taught credit literacy in high school or college, and not that I really did a lot of college, but I don't know I did a lot of high school either, but I was never, ever, ever taught there, and it's not taught today there. It's a parent's responsibility
yeah,
how it works. But the problem is, if the parents aren't educated, how are they
yeah,
educating their kids on it?
yeah,
It's the apple doesn't fall far, and if we are in a pattern of, not having great credit and financial literacy and financial responsibility, let's be clear, right? It's for the most part, it comes down to previous irresponsibility.
hmm,
There are certainly mistakes that happen that can be corrected, but a big chunk of credit issues are about financial irresponsibility. Um, so that's part of the education too, is teaching people what to do, how to do it the right way, how to stay within your means and live within your budgets, and not just get a $500 credit card and 3 days later you owe $600 and you're never gonna pay them. I mean, that's obviously we can't fix that, right?
yeah,
But we could fix the habit, we could fix why you think it's okay, and that's part of the coaching element, right? So it's twofold. It's kind of teaching you how the system works, how to live within the system so you can maximize yourself. Um, I've been telling people since I've been selling cars, you either need one or two things if you ever want to get somewhere in life. You either need access to a big bag of money or you need a big bag of money. It's much easier to have good credit than it is to have a briefcase with $30,000 in it.
yeah,
I haven't seen too many of those in my life. I've seen thousands of people with good credit. So, um, we rather teach you the way to get the bank to say yes, because at the end of the day, since the dawn of time, that's kind of how everything is created, right?
yeah, yeah. That's how it works.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like an amazing thing to me, especially, on the car side, to bring that conversation back a little bit. Much easier to have a conversation with someone like, hey, we have this service that will help you lower that interest rate from whatever the interest rate is that makes the car unaffordable. And and we're going to help you build a plan, right? Like that's
That's
much better.
what it is. It's the blueprint, right? It's the
Yeah.
blueprint. We want to give people a blueprint. And whether they wind up buying a car or not, whether they wind up buying a car from the car shop or not, is totally irrelevant to the equation.
Yeah.
Uh, it is standalone. We definitely we see more people than most because of that, but at the end of the day, it's really just about financial freedom and financial literacy.
100%.
And the combination of those two things with our help, I mean, we've seen it. We've seen people, jump 120 points in 6 months, and all of a sudden their interest rate goes from 18% to 8%, and their car loan goes from $480 to $330, or
Yeah.
insert whatever numbers, but hugely different affordability pieces of the puzzle for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Every penny counts. And even just in the case too, where maybe it's not an irresponsible thing. Like I remember when I was in like my mid-20s, which seems like 100 years ago. And I was trying to buy my first house, but I had shit credit.
Yeah.
And so I had to go through that process of repairing it and reaching out to credit agencies and all I mean, it was a very daunting, overwhelming task that took a lot of time and a
Yes.
lot of legwork. But one of the problems that I had was that my name is so common, like there's 1,000 Mike Nelsons out there. My father's name was Mike, like, and it was just,
Yes.
there was other Mike Nelson stuff on my credit report that was popping up and addresses of places I never lived at. And it was, just that part alone was just a nightmare of trying to get that figured out.
And it's more common than you think, Mike. It
Yeah.
happens all the time. I same deal. I went through very similar situations myself. I'm not the only Ron Monaco in my family, and just, that one incorrection, especially if the other Ron Monaco is not necessarily doing the right thing.
Well, that's the thing. And those like Monopoly doesn't exist. The bank errors are never in your favor.
Yeah.
You never get that $300,000 mortgage that your uncle paid off on New York. No. It's always the repossession that winds up popping that doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
The
So
real world is anti-monopoly for sure.
yeah. So what are some things, we'll say some magic pixie dust here for people, if they're listening to this and they're thinking about their credit, like what would be some either good indicators that there is help for them, or that, simple things they can do to kind of help get things in line, or
So there's help for everybody. Like, let's be clear. There's help for everybody. And a 10-minute phone call goes a long way. And just looking through data, because everybody can use a little bit of help, right? And again, even if there's no inaccuracies, even if there's no fraudulent anything on there, just then the counseling perspective of it could be of value, right? So I have nothing bad, but how do I get started responsibly, right? So that's a big piece of the puzzle too. People are like, "Oh, I have nothing. That's great. I can get something." And then you see somebody gets credit card A, and then the offers start coming in, right? So then they take credit card B and credit card C and credit card D. And next thing you know, they have $8,000 in credit card debt and they make $1,800 a month. And it's like, well, that wasn't really smart, right? But they don't know. So anybody can use help. Anybody can use the counseling. A lot of people can use the corrections, which you are, but everybody can use the counseling. And it's really just, it's a phone call, right? It's a no obligation. It's a no cost scenario. See if it makes sense. See if it's a good fit. And if it's not a good fit, we shake hands and we part ways. And if it is a good fit, then in 5 or 6 or 7 months, you're going to be celebrating, saying, "I can't believe you guys got my credit from a 580 to a 700."
100%.
yeah, that's amazing.
That's kind of where it goes.
It's well, I got to say too, I know you mentioned it earlier, Chris, but about that, like, it's not completely altruistic. You are making money on what you're doing here, but it's a business, and you're offering value, and in order to keep doing what sounds like great work, you got to be able to sustain it. The only way to do that is to make money doing it, right?
No
So
question. And by the way, it's also very affordable. So back to the affordability crisis. I mean, it's very affordable. Most people can get to a place where they're an A-tier credit like in 6 to 9 months, and the full spectrum in 6 to 9 months is typically under $1,200.
okay.
So it's not free, it's not zero, it's paid out monthly, it's kind of pay as you go.
Mhm.
But usually it's about $1,000, and usually people in 6 to 9 months will raise their score, between 100 and 120 points, and that $1,000 is of huge value, and it's of significant savings, and not just savings, it's also availability, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't get that mortgage at any rate when you struggled when you were a kid, right? So it's not just the affordability. It's not just, oh, the mortgage will be 1,000 more a month. It's you can't get it
Yeah.
versus you can get it, and it's much cheaper,
Yeah.
right? So it's,
Yeah. I'm sure it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run,
yeah,
right?
of course, for sure, 100%, no question.
So if people are interested in learning more, they wanna get that phone call going, where do they find you guys?
Requalify360.com. REQUALIFY 360.com.
And they can just go there. I'm sure, obviously phone numbers on the website. Is there a way for them to get started digitally?
Yeah, they can put the pieces in, and then Ron or myself will give them a call and kind of go forward with the initial call on the audit. It's not all automated because there has to be the human element to it. So it's
Yeah.
not something that it's going to be all online and you're going to be able to fully hide behind a screen. I mean, you could hide behind a screen, but you have to at least pick up the telephone. But again, part of it is responsibility. So you have to kind of say, "Oops, I messed up."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fix it.
I'm sure you guys help assuage the anxiety of that a little bit and soften the the humble topics sometimes for you.
Ron's good at that. He's got the face of a, oh, I don't know. No, he's nice. He's a kind soul, so it worked out.
And I get it. Like I said, I mean, I think the important thing in any business environment is to remember the human element. People are so used nowadays to being treated like a ticket in line. And
Yeah.
I think, to establish a connection with somebody, I mean, you have to be able to get through to somebody for them to drop their guard enough, not for my purpose, but for themselves, until you take ownership of the mistakes that have happened, or the misinformation or non-education that you haven't acquired over the years. You have to be able to admit that to yourself, right? Like any program, if you can't take ownership of what you don't know or what you need to do better, then you're just setting yourself up for the next financial failure. So if I can get somebody to drop their guard and just say, Ron, this is what it is, that allows me to go, deeper, to really say, okay, now we can have a candid conversation about what needs to get corrected, and this is how we do it.
Guys, I really appreciate you coming on. I love what you're doing. I think it's amazing. A lot of people need help, especially like you said, in the current environment that we're in, and I think it's amazing. And really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to our listeners.
Likewise, man. I appreciate you. Have a great day.
Having us.